It was supposed to be a normal political speech. The lights were bright at the Turning Point USA conference in Phoenix, and the crowd was loud. But then the air in the room changed. JD Vance leaned into the microphone, a smirk on his face that sent shivers down the spines of everyone watching at home. He wasn't talking about taxes. He wasn't talking about keeping families safe. He was looking for a fight, and he chose his target carefully. He looked right into the camera, addressing Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and said the words that froze time. Her street girl persona is about as real as her nails. The crowd didn't gasp. They cheered, they laughed, and that is the part that breaks your heart. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was a weapon. In that split second, the Vice President of the United States looked at a highly educated, elected black woman, a lawyer, a scholar, a leader, and tried to drag her down to a hurtful, ugly stereotype. He called her a street girl. Think about that. He didn't call her wrong. He didn't say she was mistaken on policy. He attacked who she is. For millions of women watching, especially women of color who have worked twice as hard to get half as far, it felt like a slap in the face. It was a painful reminder that no matter how many degrees you have or how high you climb, some powerful men will only see you as street. It was a moment designed to humiliate her. But if JD Vance thought this cruel insult would silence Jasmine Crockett, he made a very big mistake. He didn't just insult a woman, he lit a fire that he can't put out. The silence following his words wasn't fear, it was the calm before the storm. The internet didn't just talk, it screamed. Within minutes of Vance's speech, phone screens lit up across the country. But it wasn't just anger, it was hurt. Real, deep hurt. We saw mothers holding their daughters tighter, trying to find the words to explain why a man in such high power would say something so cruel. We saw young girls who dream of being in Congress one day wondering if they would be called names too. No matter how hard they studied street girl, it's a phrase used to say someone doesn't belong. It's a way of saying you are not professional, you are not smart, you are just loud. Critics immediately called it what it was, a dog whistle. That means it's a secret code. To some people, it sounds like a normal insult. But to those who know the history of unfair treatment, it's a loud siren. It tells people to look at Jasmine Crockett not as a congresswoman, but as a bad joke. It tries to strip away her law degree, her years of service, and her brilliance. But while Vance's crowd laughed, something else was happening. A wave of protection started to rise. People weren't just defending a politician, they were defending their own dignity. Everyone was waiting with bated breath. The world turned its eyes to Jasmine Crockett. Would she cry? Would she yell? Or would she do something even more powerful? The clock was ticking, and the silence from her camp was heavy with anticipation. To truly understand why this moment cuts so deep, we have to look at the woman JD Vance tried to tear down. Who is Jasmine Crockett really? When Vance sneered and called her a street girl, he was trying to paint a picture of someone uneducated, unworthy, and out of place. But the truth is a story of sacrifice and hard work that would bring tears to your eyes. Jasmine isn't playing a character. She is a woman who spent years in law school reading books thicker than cinder blocks while others were sleeping, just so she could gain the skills to defend people who had no one else fighting for them. She stood in courtrooms in Texas as a civil rights attorney, often the only black woman in the room, fighting for the innocent and the ignored. She bore the heavy weight of entire communities on her shoulders. Remember when Marjorie Taylor Greene attacked her eyelashes in that committee hearing? Jasmine didn't crumble then, and she didn't crumble now. It's becoming clear why they do this. They attack her looks, her nails, and her persona because they are absolutely terrified of her brain. They know she is smart enough to debate circles around them. Every time Jasmine speaks, She carries the hopes of every little girl who was ever told she was too loud, too bossy, or too much. Vance's insult was a lie designed to make us forget her brilliance and reduce her to a stereotype. But as the sun rose, the morning after his hateful speech, the world wasn't forgetting. We were remembering exactly who she is. And somewhere in the quiet before the storm, Jasmine was preparing a response that wouldn't just defend herself, but every single one of us who has ever been judged unfairly. The most painful part of JD Vance's attack wasn't just the name-calling, it was the accusation that Jasmine Crockett is fake. When he said her persona was about as real as her nails, he wasn't just talking about a manicure, he was trying to steal her truth. Imagine someone looking at your life, your struggles, and your hard-earned victories, and telling the world it's all just a costume. That is a special kind of cruelty. It cuts to the bone because it tells a black woman that her genuine passion must be an act, because surely she couldn't be that powerful on her own. This attack comes right as Jasmine is gearing up for the biggest fight of her life, a run for the U.S. Senate in Texas. She wants to unseat Ted Cruz, a man who has been in power for a long time. The timing of Vance's insult is no coincidence. They see the crowds Jasmine draws. They see ordinary people, teachers, nurses, bus drivers, crying when she speaks because they finally feel heard. That connection is real. You cannot fake the kind of love people have for her. Vance tried to make her look small, but he accidentally revealed what he is truly afraid of. He is afraid that her persona, her voice, her swagger, her refusal to back down is actually the future. He wants voters to believe she is playing a game, but everyone who has watched her fight for voting rights or stand up to bullies in Congress knows the truth. Her cheers are real. Her anger is righteous. And by calling her fake, Vance didn't expose her. He exposed his own fear of a woman he cannot control. The stage was set for a showdown, and the world held its breath, waiting for the moment the fake girl would speak the realest truth of all. The anger bubbling up across the country isn't just about what Vance said, it's about who said it. The irony here is thick enough to choke on. JD Vance is a man who became famous by writing a book of hillbilly elegy about his humble roots. But then we watched him change. We saw him go from calling Donald Trump America's Hitler to becoming his vice president. We watched him trade his flannel shirts for expensive suits and Silicon Valley money. He is a man who has changed his face, his beliefs, and his personality to get power. He is the definition of a chameleon. Yet, he has the audacity to point a finger at Jasmine Crockett and call her fake. It feels like a bad dream. Jasmine has been the same woman since day one, whether she is in a protest line in Dallas or the halls of Congress in D.C., she speaks the same, she acts the same, and she fights the same. She doesn't code switch to make people comfortable. She doesn't hide who she is to get a vote. This double standard is what brings tears of frustration to so many eyes. A powerful man is allowed to reinvent himself a dozen times and is called strategic. But a black woman is authentic and unapologetic, and she is called a street girl and a fraud. It is a painful reminder that the rules are different for people like Jasmine. They don't want her to be real. They want her to be quiet. But the hypocrisy was so loud that even people who don't follow politics started to pay attention. The pressure was mounting. The world was watching Vance smirk, thinking he had won, but he forgot one thing. When you throw stones at a woman made of steel, they just bounce back. The response was coming, and it was going to be legendary. The moment we had all been waiting for finally arrived. It wasn't a tweet. It wasn't a press release hidden on a website. Jasmine Crockett went on national television, sitting under the bright lights of CNN to look America in the eye. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Millions tuned in, hearts pounding, terrified that she might let the anger take over, that she might give Vance exactly the angry reaction he wanted. But what happened next was A masterclass in grace under fire that left viewers reaching for tissues. Jasmine didn't scream. She didn't shout. She sat there, composed and regal, with a quiet strength that roared louder than any microphone. When asked about the street girl comment, she didn't just defend herself. She dismantled the entire hate-filled system that allowed a vice president to speak that way. "This is a racist trope," she said, her voice steady but laced with a pain that resonated in every living room. "Republicans are terrified of smart, bold black women." Watching her, you could feel the collective exhale of women everywhere. She wasn't just speaking for herself. She was speaking for the woman interrupted in a board meeting, the girl mocked for her hair in school, the mother judged in the grocery store. She turned the mirror right back on Vance, exposing his fear. She reminded us that when they go low, you don't just go high, you stand firm. She turned a moment of intended humiliation into a moment of pure empowerment. People weren't just clapping, they were crying tears of pride. Vance thought he was burying her, but in that interview, Jasmine Crockett proved she was a seed, and she was just beginning to grow. JD Vance thought his words would isolate Jasmine Crockett. He miscalculated on a historic scale. He forgot that pain, when shared, becomes power. Immediately after her interview aired, something magical happened. It wasn't just political pundits talking anymore. It was the people. A tidal wave of support crashed over the internet, washing away the ugliness of the street girl comment. The hashtag #StandWithJasmine didn't just trend. It became a digital home for millions of stories. Women started posting pictures of their own long nails, their hoop earrings, and their degrees, captioning them. "If being smart, strong, and brio makes me a street girl, then I am one too." It was a rebellion of joy. We saw nurses in scrubs, teachers in classrooms, and grandmothers in church hats rallying behind her. They saw themselves in Jasmine. They realized that an attack on her was an attack on their own identity. The tears shed weren't just for Jasmine anymore. They were tears of release. Finally, someone was standing up to the bullies who had made them feel small for so long. Vance's attempt to shame her had backfired completely. Instead of a scarlet letter, he gave her a badge of honor. He tried to make her look less than, but the public declared her more than enough. You could feel the ground shifting. Donations to her Senate campaign began to pour in, not from billionaires, but from $5 donations sent by single moms and students. The message was clear. You cannot break a woman who is held up by the hands of millions. Jasmine Crockett wasn't standing alone on that stage anymore. She had an army behind her, fueled by love and a fierce determination to protect one of their own. Why now? Why did the Vice President of the United States take time out of his day to attack a freshman congresswoman? If she was truly fake or unimportant, he wouldn't even know her name. But the truth is, JD Vance and his allies are shaking in their boots. They aren't attacking Jasmine Crockett because she is weak. They are attacking her because she is dangerously powerful. And the prize they are fighting over is bigger than just an insult. It is the soul of Texas and the future of America. Jasmine is running for the U.S. Senate in 2026. She is coming for Ted Cruz's seat. For decades, men in power have counted on Texas staying the same. They counted on people staying home, staying quiet, and accepting whatever scraps were thrown their way. But Jasmine represents a terrifying new reality for them. She looks like the people they ignored. She talks like the people they silenced. And worst of all for them, she wins. When you look at the desperation in Vance's eyes, you see a man watching the sand slip through his fingers. He knows that if a street girl from Dallas, brilliant, bold, and black, can rise to the Senate, then the old rules are dead. They are trying to break her spirit now because they know they cannot beat her on the issues later. It brings tears to your eyes to realize that this woman is taking all these arrows, all this hate, just so the door can be open for the rest of us. She is the storm they never saw coming, and now that she is here, their only defense is to be cruel. But every insult just proves one thing, The future belongs to Jasmine Crockett, and the past is terrified of being left behind. There is a beautiful, poetic justice in the way this feud has unfolded. JD Vance threw the word street like a grenade, intending to destroy. He wanted us to look at Jasmine Crockett and see something dirty, something low. But in his arrogance, he missed the most profound truth of all. The streets are where life happens. The streets are where the single mother waits for the bus in the rain to get to her second job. The streets are where the civil rights marches marched. The streets are where the heart of America actually beats. By trying to insult her, Vance accidentally gave her the greatest title of all. He highlighted exactly why we love her. Jasmine isn't floating in a private jet or hiding behind the gates of a mansion. She is grounded. She is of the people. And when you watch her speak now, you don't see a victim of bullying. You see a warrior standing tall on the very ground they tried to bury her in. She has taken his ugly insult and turned it into a badge of honor. Tears stream down our faces, not because we are sad for her, but because we are so incredibly proud. She is showing us that you don't have to change who you are to be worthy. You don't. You have to polish away your edges to be a leader. You can be from the streets and from the struggle and still belong in the Senate. Jasmine Crockett is proving that the street girl is actually the smartest person in the room. She has become a lighthouse for everyone who has ever been told they were too ghetto or too loud for corporate spaces. As we move toward the final chapter of this saga, the energy is shifting from defense to offense. The sadness is turning into a deep, unbreakable resolve. Vance wanted to silence a street girl, but instead, he woke up a nation of them. And as we look toward the future, one thing is certain: the streets are talking back, and their voice is Jasmine Crockett. The revolution isn't coming. It's already here, wearing long nails and speaking the undeniable truth. The dust is finally settling, but the landscape has changed forever. JD Vance thought he could dismiss Jasmine Crockett with a cruel phrase. He thought he could reduce a powerhouse to a punchline. But as we look at where we stand today, the irony is overwhelming. His words didn't shrink her, they magnified her. In trying to cast her as a street girl, he accidentally reminded America that the streets are where the fight for freedom lives. He reminded us that the most dangerous thing a woman can be is unafraid. This wasn't just a political feud. It was a spiritual victory for every underdog who has ever been underestimated. Jasmine Crockett didn't just win the news cycle. She won the moral war. She showed us that you can have long nails and write legislation that saves lives. She proved that you can speak with the rhythm of your community and still command the respect of a nation. She has redefined what a senator looks like, sounds like, and acts like. Imagine the scene in 2026. Picture Jasmine Crockett walking onto the Senate floor. The doors swing open and she walks in, head held high, unapologetically black, unapologetically brilliant. She isn't wearing a mask. She isn't pretending to be someone else. She is there because she fought for it, and because we fought for her. That image brings tears of pure joy because it represents the ultimate triumph of truth over fear. Vance wanted her to feel shame, but she is walking in glory. The street girl is about to become the senator, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing, they can do to stop her.